I just want to spend a couple of minutes now just going quickly through business structures. There's another, both the tax planning, tax effective models, as well as there's other reasons why you set up different structures for small businesses in terms of legal liabilities and risk. So in its simplest form, start off as effectively a sole trader. So when I started in the bedroom at home, I just started as a sole trader the first couple of years. Really simple. You get an ABN. You may want a business name to go with it if you want to sort of do that, or you'd be boring like myself and just pick the first three initials of my name and just went with that and stuck with it ever since. But it's really simple and effective just to get you going. You're taxed along with any other income, so if you've got a salary and wage income as well as some business income, it's all lumped together. Melting pot happens at the end of the year and you're taxed at the different bands. There's no flat rates. Whatever your marginal tax rate happens at the end of the year. Then you might decide to link up and form a partnership. You join up, might be husband and wife, might be two guys get together and they just form a simple partnership. Once again, it's quite simple. Essentially it's two sole traders trading as one, and then the partnership profits get split between two individuals at the end of the financial year. The partnership has a separate tax file number, but it's not really a separate legal entity as such. There's no sort of legal, separate legal structure. It's just two individuals forming a partnership, normally for tax purposes. You may have a partnership agreement. I reckon I see out of all the partnerships, probably 1 in 10 would have actually a written agreement. I always try to encourage people to have, even if it's just back of the envelope, that you just have some dot points that you and your partner, especially if it's not your spouse, or just how you're going to distribute profits. What happens if one of you want to leave? What happens if you want to bring new partners in? Just some basic concept that can evolve over time, but you see, unfortunately you see good businesses might get come apart through a partnership that gets dissolved. Then you might want to consider, as the business grows, you want to be more complex. You have a blob called a trust. Inside that blob, the trust owns things, owns assets. The trust makes profits. Trusts normally don't get taxed on those profits. They need to give the money away to someone. So we have things, or people, it has to be people, can't give it away to your dog or anything. So we have down the bottom what they call beneficiaries. So they are people who will inherit or be allocated the profits on an annual basis for a discretionary trust. When I say discretionary trust, it is an annual election by what we call the bosses, which is really the trustees, and they call the shots. So the classic example is Gina Rinehart. Courts have had a great time, lawyers have had a great time proving one way or another how she has been able to control the trusts. In that example, we've had disgruntled beneficiaries try to claim that they're entitled to a fixed entitlement. There's no, well, hopefully there won't be any case law to show that under a discretionary trust that beneficiaries have a fixed entitlement. It's just a discretion, that the trustees' discretion each year. Where that particular case comes apart, there's actually another level above a trustee called an appointor. And their sole job is to hire and fire the trustee. Normally, mum and dad stuff, they're one and the same, don't really have an issue. But from a legal perspective, that is the boss. So when I say the trustees are the boss, the appointor or group of appointors can hire and fire the trustee. Trusts can be quite complex. They're based essentially around Old English law. A lot of financiers don't like them because there's no fixed entitlement to any beneficiaries down here. So if they're assessing a loan application, they're going, well, Michael Harvey's not you might not get the money next year. And they look at who the trustees are and try to then rope in all sort of forms of income. But from a tax planning perspective, it's the most flexible vehicle you can come across because of this annual election that you can make about where you want your profits to be allocated to. The other option, as you move up into more complex arrangements, you have the traditional company. P2Y LTDs. And as Andrew mentioned, the government in the last budget announcement has really opened up companies to be probably more popular, in my view, over the next years, assuming the 2nd of July goes and the coalition way and that becomes legislation. Because they're lowering the tax rate, the gap between the individuals and the company tax rate, which is for small businesses, as Andrew mentioned, 28.5%, going down to 27.5% from 1 July 16. And as I mentioned before, opening up the definition to be small business being $10 million turnover, this option becomes quite attractive from a tax, flat rate of tax perspective. The downsides of companies traditionally has been if it's got an asset that accumulates. So for someone like me, I stayed in the bedroom at home and I'm accumulating goodwill in my business. I don't have a cost base, I didn't buy a business. So for me, companies are not great because there's what they call capital gains tax concessions that are available for individuals to access, both from a personal perspective and a small business perspective. Companies are a bit more restricted in that space. But from a day-to-day trading perspective, this recent announcement is, in my view, bringing a lot more sort of force for companies to be trading. Damien.
Michael, I'm just kind of curious about this whole thing about the company tax rate, because at the end of the day, from what I understand, at the end of the day, the money is still going to come, if you're going to have the benefits of it, like the owners are going to receive the money that the company makes, at which point they'll get taxed at their personal rate, whatever the difference.
Yep.
So does it actually make much difference what the company tax rate's, apart from when it reinvests it?
Yep.
That's
So
the only time it makes any difference. If you're going to give it to the people, then you're still going to get taxed again.
So for me, the magic in what I call the franked dividends. So the beauty of it is you pay a company tax bill, the tax office still remembers that you paid that bill. So Michael Harvey pays tax in my own name, I basically pay a bill and the tax office says thanks very much, you pay it marginal rate. The beauty of it, you pay it, and if I need that money straight away, then you're exactly right. It's, you know, if you pay a 100% franked dividend, or what the remainder is, into my personal name, then there's no real advantage. But what this allows you to do is to play timing differences. So 2 years ago my wife didn't work, so you know, for 6 months, so I've got a lower tax rate to be able to play of when that dividend might flow into. So that's the difference. All things being equal year on year, and had a conversation last week with a client about, he's saying, well, all things being equal, if my business is flatline, then there's no real difference, and that's true, but history being history, that there'll be something that'll play will change the circumstances for you.
Because it's just the government to be banging on about it as if it's some great saving in tax. But really it's just a deferment or a dodging, or, you know, you're not really not paying the tax, it just allows you to be a bit more flexible.
It's deferment.
Right.
Essentially. And this kitty, if you want, that gets built on your franking account, basically. Right. The other thing which Andrew will touch upon, stealing a bit of your thunder there, is that what I think will happen is that the owner, so you have a shareholder, just to complete the picture, which is the owner, and they appoint directors, and they are the bosses for day to day, although the shareholder can stack directors. What I will think will happen is the shareholders will become family trusts, because you've got a mix of best of both worlds to some extent, that you pay your flat rate of company tax, and then you pay your dividends out to your shareholders, to a family trust, and then you can do the funky stuff in terms of being able to distribute it to kids, or the wife wasn't working, whatever. So that's sort of a combo that I think will come into vogue. That's just a quick snapshot, and I'll now hand back to Andrew just to give you a few more thoughts about where that might link into superannuation as well.